Okay, so, there's lots of talk about all these supplements and natural products out there
Hmm.
saying they can help with ED and like all sorts of male sexual health stuff,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
And we hear you.
Yeah.
You want to like really get what's actually in these things,
Yeah.
but like without getting bogged down in all the technical details.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're diving into today.
Yep.
We're going to make it super clear for you.
We are. Yeah.
So to do that,
Yeah.
we're looking at a couple of really interesting pieces of research.
Mm-hmm.
First up is this 2023 study from Italy.
Yeah.
And they basically just went through all these supplements they found on the market there.
They did.
And they looked at all the ingredients,
Mm.
and then they checked to see if there was any like science
Yeah.
to back up whether those ingredients actually work,
Yeah.
Like
actual research.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, to support it.
Then we've got this other study
Mm-hmm.
that's a 2024 systematic review.
Right.
And it looks at natural products more broadly
Yeah.
for all different kinds of male sexual dysfunction.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
So basically, we're going to cut through all the hype and all the marketing.
Yeah. All that noise.
Yeah, exactly. All that noise.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to give you just the straight facts
The facts.
about what's in these products
Yeah.
and whether or not they actually have a chance of working for you.
That's it.
Okay, so before we jump into the supplements themselves,
Mm-hmm.
let's just talk about erectile dysfunction for a second.
Sure.
Or ED,
Right.
It's way more common than people think.
Yeah, it really is.
Our sources say that between 1 and 10% of men under 40
Mm-hmm.
are dealing with it.
Under 40, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a lot of people.
it is.
And then you get to like men between 40 and 70,
Yeah.
and it's like 30 to 50%.
Yeah, it's a pretty big jump, right?
Huge jump.
Yeah.
It's actually the most common male sexual disorder,
Is it really?
besides premature ejaculation.
Wow.
Yes.
See, it's not just a physical
Yeah.
thing, right?
No, not at all.
Like-
It affects everything.
A guy's self-esteem relationships.
Your confidence,
Yeah.
your relationship, how you feel about yourself.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Really is.
And a lot of people think it's like all in your head.
Right.
But it's interesting.
Yeah.
When you look at the causes,
Mm-hmm.
only about 20% of cases
Oh, wow.
are actually from psychological factors.
Okay.
That's what they call psychogenic ED.
Mm-hmm.
But most cases,
Yeah.
over 80%,
Right.
are caused by like physical things.
Physical problems.
Yeah.
Often blood flow.
Yeah. That's the vasculogenic ED.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes it's like a side effect from some kind of medical treatment.
Yeah, like a medication you're taking.
Yeah, that's iatrogenic.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, this is interesting.
what's really wild
What is it?
is that ED
Yeah.
can actually be like a warning sign
Oh, really?
for some other health problems going on.
Oh.
Yeah, the studies show that sometimes trouble getting or keeping an erection
Right.
can be a sign
Of what?
of like endocrine disorders
Yeah.
or other non-communicable diseases.
So it's like a signal.
Yeah, it's like your body's trying to tell you something.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's definitely not something to just ignore.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Especially since, there are things you can do
Yeah, there are.
to lower your chances of having problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you're overweight or obese,
Yeah.
or if you have insulin resistance or diabetes,
Mm-hmm.
atherosclerosis, high blood pressure,
Right. All those things.
if you smoke,
Yeah.
if you're doing drugs or drinking too much alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
and if you have a sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah. All that stuff contributes to a higher chance of having ED.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how people try to deal with this.
Okay.
There are conventional medical treatments.
Right.
Like the 2023 study mentions PDE5 inhibitors.
Yeah. Those are like the first line treatments, right?
Yeah, the first thing doctors usually try.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also this long history going back centuries of using plant extracts and other natural substances
Right.
to try to boost male sexual performance.
Yeah, like that's been a thing forever.
Oh, yeah, for a long time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's
Yeah.
like exploded
Yeah.
with all these dietary supplements
Mm-hmm.
and alternative therapy.
And they're everywhere.
You can get them online.
Yeah, super easy to get.
No prescription needed or anything.
Exactly.
But that should make you think a little bit, right?
Yeah, should.
Like how much of the active ingredient is actually in there? What's the quality of the ingredients?
Mm-hmm.
Could they mess with other medications you're taking?
Yeah, that's a big one.
And like the big question, do
Mesh.
they even actually work?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
So the 2023 study really wanted to figure out, okay, how effective are these supplements that are being sold?
Mm-hmm.
in Italy.
Right.
They were really thorough.
Yeah.
They went through all the scientific research to find what they called effective ingredients,
Okay.
or EIs.
Seed eyes, got it.
That's ingredients that studies have actually shown can improve erectile function.
So they actually have some science behind them?
Yeah, science backing them up.
Okay.
They also wanted to find out the minimum effective daily dose,
Okay.
or MED.
MED, all right.
That's the smallest amount of an ingredient that's been shown to have a benefit.
So it's like setting a baseline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we know this thing works.
Yeah.
But how much of it do you need to take
To actually see a difference.
to actually see results?
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
And then they compared that to the actual supplements on the market to see, did they have the right ingredients?
Yeah.
And did they have enough of them?
Were they dosed high enough? They even used a scoring system based on the American Heart Association's guidelines for evaluating scientific evidence.
So they were serious about this.
They were very serious.
Okay, so what did they find?
All right, so here's the big thing.
Okay.
Out of all the supplements they looked at, 27 of them,
Yeah.
only 2 had what they considered higher expected efficacy.
Oh, those are the ones that...
Yeah, those are the ones that had a good chance of working
Okay.
based on their ingredients and dosage.
Right.
That's like 8%.
8%.
Yeah.
Wow. 3 supplements
Okay.
fell into the lower efficacy group.
So maybe they could work, but...
Maybe, but not likely.
Okay.
But here's the shocker.
Yeah.
80%
80%.
of the supplements they looked at
Wow.
had no expected efficacy.
So they're basically useless.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
It really shows you...
That there's this huge gap between what these companies are claiming Right. and what the science actually says.
Right.
80% of these products are probably not going to do anything for you.
Yeah, that's a huge red flag
It is.
for consumers.
Yeah.
So
Why is that?
why is that?
Well,
Yeah.
they found that most of these supplements were just these, like,
Yeah.
mixes of tons of different things.
Ah.
And often the doses were so tiny,
Yeah.
it was practically meaningless.
Right.
Or even worse.
Yeah.
They had ingredients that hadn't been shown to help with ED at all.
So it's like
Yeah.
they're just throwing a bunch of stuff in there.
It's like a kitchen sink approach.
Yeah.
Hoping something sticks
Right.
without any real evidence behind it.
Right. It's all marketing hype.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of the 27 supplements
All of them.
had at least one ingredient
Okay.
with no proven benefits for ED.
What?
And almost 90% of them
Wow.
had at least one ingredient that was dosed below that minimum effective level.
So even if they did have an ingredient that could work,
Yeah,
they weren't putting enough in
they weren't giving you enough.
to actually make a difference.
Yeah, to actually do anything.
So what were some of the...
Yeah, what were they putting in there?
Yeah. What were some of the common ingredients they were finding?
Well, the most common one was actually zinc.
Zinc.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Which is funny because
Yeah.
the study didn't find any research that supported using zinc for ED.
Wow. So it's like
Yeah.
they're putting this in,
Yeah.
even though there's no evidence.
There's no evidence to say it works.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
What about the actual effective ingredients?
Okay.
Like the ones that actually...
Ones that actually had some research behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah. The most common ones were
Mm-hmm.
L-arginine,
Okay.
Primulus terrestris,
Ah.
and Panax ginseng.
Okay.
But like we said, they were often underdosed.
Yeah.
So not enough to do much.
Not enough to actually work.
Exactly.
What about some of the other...
Yeah. What about some of the other ingredients?
Yeah, like the ones that maybe had some research?
Yeah, this should promise.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
There were some effective ingredients that have good scientific support
Yeah.
for specific types of male sexual dysfunction,
Okay.
but they weren't being used very much in these supplements.
Huh. That's weird.
It is.
Like, why not?
Yeah, good question.
If they work,
Yeah,
why not use them?
right.
So, for example,
Yeah.
Eurycoma longifolia,
Mm-hmm.
also called Tonkat Ali,
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
it's shown some potential for functional hypogonadism,
Okay.
and with Thunia somnifera,
Mm-hmm.
or ashwagandha,
Right. Ashwagandha.
has shown some potential for late-onset hypogonadism,
Okay.
but those weren't being used as much in the supplements.
So it's like,
Yeah, it's like...
they're not really paying attention to the latest research when
Yeah.
they're making these products.
Makes you wonder.
It does.
Yeah.
The study also talked about yohimbine,
Okay.
which comes from the Coronanthe yohimbe tree.
Right.
And there's some evidence that it might be helpful,
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually not allowed to be sold as a supplement in the EU.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because there are concerns about potential heart risks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like too risky.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay.
And they did find some online supplements that contained yohimbine, but they didn't include those in their analysis of efficacy
Okay.
because they weren't technically legal.
Gotcha.
So we've got a good picture now of what's actually in these supplements and how likely they are to be effective.
And it's not looking great.
It's not.
But the study went a step further.
They did.
And did a meta-analysis on some of the key ingredients.
Right. Let's break it down.
Okay.
So Panax ginseng. What did they find?
Yeah, what's the deal with ginseng?
So they looked at 5 studies
Okay.
with over 300 patients.
Wow, that's a decent sample size.
Yeah, pretty good.
Okay.
And they found that Panax ginseng was linked to significant improvement in erectile performance.
Okay.
They measured this using those standard questionnaires for erectile function.
Yeah, like the IIEF?
Yeah, the IAF-15 and IAF-5.
Okay.
The doses that seemed to work in the studies were between 0.8 and 3 grams of dry extract per day.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
a pretty specific range.
It is.
Okay.
But they did mention some concerns
Oh, okay.
about the quality of some of the studies.
So maybe the evidence isn't super strong.
Yeah, it's not a slam dunk.
Okay.
But there's a hint of potential benefit there.
Okay.
What about L-arginine?
Okay, yeah.
They looked at 4 studies for that
Okay.
with 246 patients.
All right.
And they found a significant improvement in erectile performance there, too. And also improvements in other measures of sexual function.
Oh, interesting.
Like the Keaton-O'Leary scores.
Okay.
The minimum effective daily dose they found was 5 grams.
5 grams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. Remember how we talked about how a lot of supplements were underdosed?
Yeah.
Well, L-arginine was one of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they weren't putting enough in.
So even though it could work,
Yeah.
they weren't giving you enough.
Not enough to make a difference.
So how is L-arginine supposed to work anyway?
So it helps your body produce nitric oxide,
Okay.
which is essential for healthy blood flow
Right.
and therefore for erections.
Okay.
So in theory, if you get enough, it could help.
Right. Because nitric oxide helps the blood vessels relax.
Yeah, relaxes those blood vessels.
Which you need for an erection.
Exactly.
But you got to be getting that 5-gram dose.
5 grams, yeah.
Which a lot of these supplements aren't giving you.
Not even close.
Okay, what about Tribulus terrestris?
All right, so that
That's a
one...
really popular ingredient.
Yeah, you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
So for that one, they looked at 3 studies
Okay.
with 272 patients.
All right.
And they did find a significant improvement
Okay.
in erectile performance.
So that's good news.
Seems like it.
Yeah,
But they weren't as confident about that finding
Okay, why not?
because of inconsistencies between the studies
Oh, okay.
and potential bias.
So it's like
Yeah.
the results looked good, but the research might not be the best quality.
Yeah, the evidence isn't as solid,
Okay.
and the minimum effective dose for Tribulus was 750 milligrams.
750 milligrams. Okay.
Yeah.
What about
Okay, so last one,
with Thunia somnifera or ashwagandha,
ashwagandha.
right? Yeah. Everyone's talking about ashwagandha these days.
They are.
What's the deal with that?
Okay, so for ashwagandha, they combined the results from 2 studies
Okay.
with 136 patients. And overall, they didn't find a significant difference.
So no real benefit.
Actually, no real benefit.
Not in the overall data.
Okay.
But when they looked at specific subgroups, they found a suggestion that it might help for psychogenic ED.
Oh. So
Yeah.
for ED, that's caused by psychological stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
But again, they had some issues with the quality of one of the studies.
So the evidence is still kind of iffy.
Yeah, it's not totally clear,
Okay.
but there might be something there.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that gives us a good overview
Yeah.
of the ingredients and how much evidence there is.
Yeah, we've seen what's inside those supplements
Yeah.
and how much we can actually trust the claims they're making.
Right.
So,
Yeah, now let's zoom out a bit
yeah.
and look at this 2024 systematic review.
Mm-hmm.
That took a broader look at natural products for male sexual dysfunction.
Right. This one looked at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So what did they find?
Yeah, what were some of the key takeaways?
Well,
Yeah. It kind of echoed what the 2023 study found
okay.
about the limited scientific evidence
Mhm.
for a lot of these natural products.
So it's like both studies are saying,
Yeah,
we need more research.
basically.
Right.
They also put together a list of plants
Mhm.
that have been traditionally used as aphrodisiacs.
Okay.
And you'll notice a lot of overlap with what we just talked about.
Okay, so give us the rundown.
So Tribulus terrestris, Panax ginseng, maca, horny goatweed, yohimbine,
right,
damiana,
okay,
muirapuama,
right,
tonkat ali, ashwagandha, and even saffron.
Saffron.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a long list.
It is.
But it shows you that there's this long history of using these plants for sexual health.
Yeah, people have been trying this stuff forever.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah. The review also mentioned some vitamins and minerals.
Oh, yeah, right.
That might be helpful.
Yeah, they highlighted zinc, vitamin E, and L-arginine.
There's L-arginine again?
Yeah, it keeps popping up as having some potential benefits for erectile function and libido.
But again, it's all about the dosage.
Dosage is key.
Yeah.
The review also stressed how important it is to talk to your doctor before you start using any of these natural products.
Yeah, that's so important.
It is.
Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's safe.
Doesn't mean it's safe.
Or that it'll work.
Or effective.
Yeah.
Especially because it could interact with other medications you're taking.
Right.
Or with any health conditions you might have.
Exactly.
So talk to your doctor first.
Always a good idea.
Always.
Yeah, and it sounds like research in this area is constantly changing.
Yeah, it's an active area of research.
Yeah.
The 2024 review actually noted that there's growing interest in researching natural products for male sexual dysfunction. Yeah.
So more research is coming out.
More research is coming out.
Yeah, that's what we like to hear.
That's good news.
Yeah.
And you can actually see that in the increasing number of scientific papers that are being published on this topic.
So people are paying attention.
Scientists are definitely interested.
Yeah.
They even found out which countries are doing the most research.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Where is it?
So India's number one.
Okay.
And then the USA.
All right.
China. Nigeria.
Interesting.
And Brazil.
So it's like all over the world.
Yeah, global research effort.
Yeah, that's cool.
They even pointed out some of the key researchers and institutions that are contributing the most.
So it's like a whole community of people working on this.
Exactly.
It's really neat.
Yeah, it is.
And they looked at how the research focus has changed over time.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, early on, research was mostly focused on, like, is this herbal medicine actually what it says it is?
Oh, like checking for adulteration.
Yeah, making sure it's not fake.
Yeah.
And just describing how these things have been traditionally used.
Okay, so just like basic stuff.
Yeah.
But over time, it's gotten more sophisticated.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
Now researchers are trying to figure out how these natural products actually work.
Yeah.
Like, what's the mechanism?
Okay.
They're looking at their antioxidant effects and specifically investigating erectile dysfunction.
So they're getting more specific.
Yeah, more targeted. Okay. They're also doing more detailed analysis of the phytochemistry.
Okay.
That's like the different chemical compounds in these plants.
Got it.
And how those compounds relate to traditional medicine.
So it's like they're going deeper.
Yeah, way deeper.
And just like, oh, this plant's been used for this.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's really cool.
So what about the more recent trends?
Yeah, what's new?
Yeah, like what are researchers focusing on now?
So one of the hot new areas is in silico molecular coupling.
In silico?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's basically using computers to virtually test if a plant compound could have a similar effect to a prescription medication.
Oh, wow. So it's like a shortcut?
Kind of.
To see if something might work.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they do this by seeing how well the compound binds to specific targets in the body.
Okay.
Like the PDE5 enzyme.
Right. We talked about that before. Yeah.
So this could help speed up the discovery of new treatments.
So that means we could potentially find new ED treatments faster.
Exactly.
That's really exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
Ashwagandha is still a big topic of research, as is the phytochemistry, the PDE5 enzyme, and another enzyme called arginase.
Okay.
So lots of interesting avenues for future research.
Yeah, it's like this whole field is just exploding.
It's a growing field. Yeah. The review even mentioned specific computer-based studies looking at plants like Withania somnifera for their ability to block PDE5.
So that's the same way that conventional ED drugs work.
Exactly.
Wow.
So they're basically looking for natural alternatives. That might work in a similar way.
That's really interesting.
It is.
But even with all this cool research, we still have to be careful.
Yeah, we do.
About the quality and safety of these products.
Absolutely.
Right.
The 2024 review really emphasized the concern about adulteration.
Right.
So that's where supplements are contaminated with synthetic drug ingredients.
And they don't tell you.
Yeah, it's undeclared.
Wow. So you could be taking a prescription drug
basically
without even knowing it.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
Yeah, that's pretty scary.
It is.
Yeah.
So
let's wrap this up. What are the key takeaways for you, our listener?
All right. So number one, a lot of the supplements marketed for ED don't actually have good scientific evidence to support their claims.
Like that Italian study?
Yeah, that study really showed that a lot of these products are probably not going to work.
Yeah.
Number two, some natural ingredients like Panax ginseng and L-arginine have shown some promise in research.
Yeah.
But they're often not used correctly in supplements.
Right.
The dosage might be too low or the quality might not.